Latinas.
Latinas make history every day. Okay.
Can you read it for me?
Well, how do you say this one?
Latinas.
Happy Friday, everybody. It is another episode of Talia Talks. We are here at SUNY Buffalo State University. Stop playing with us. 91.3 FM WBNY. For those of you who do not know, we are a university. For those of you who do not know, my name is Talia. I have the privilege of interviewing Black and brown business people on campus as a part of our work supporting anchor institutions and people from our city who are doing amazing things. I have Louie Rodriquez on the line. Louie, are you there?
I am here.
Hi, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank you so much for coming to the show today.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Talia.
I'm really excited for you to join us. I know that you have limited time, but for those of you who do not know, Louie and I are not related. So we're going to start there because I know someone's going to ask us that. Starting point one. So, Mr. Rodriguez, I sent you your question. So I know that people want to hear the answers. So we're going to get right into them. Okay. So what is the name of your business?
My business, Rodriquez Construction Group.
Okay, and why did you call it Rodriquez Construction Group?
Well, I called it, I wanted to make sure the name, being a minority, obviously last name, it was prevalent in the construction industry and showcase good work. I think there's a lot to be said that minority businesses, have a bad rap in the community for bad practices that have been done previously. So I thought it was important to kind of separate myself and make sure that, you've got a good reputation, look, feel for an organization that's out there doing good work. So
I always say those are the only dumpsters I ever get excited to see. The ones that have your name on it. And if I see them in like a place where I'm like, okay, so I was walking down Massachusetts and I remember texted you and I was like, okay, Louie, you made it. This is big stuff because that's the street that I grew up on. So it's been amazing to see you grow as a business person. You mentioned some of the different ways that you wanted to approach business. My next question always is like, what is unique about your business values or about your approach to your specific industry, and yours being construction?
Well, I guess the approach is, it's twofold. It's, historically in construction, there's, a lot of, hasn't been dominated by minority business at all here locally. So I think it's important to be able to pave the path and show people when you're able to have an opportunity what you can do with it. And with that, it's, there's a lot of, it's a lot of stewardship that you've got to have. So, but it's doing good work, working hard. I look at a lot of my core values as far as, some of my core values are hard work, opportunity, honesty, accountability, and then having fun, but it's.
You forgot one. He forgot one. It's service. Mr. Rodriguez, how many organizations do you volunteer or support? Just give me a ballpark number.
I would say about nine different organizations that I service.
And he puts his heart, I'm looking at two cameras, but I'm saying you put your heart into these organizations. I could name them, but we'll get to that. I brag on you all the time because of your investment at Lafayette High School. But definitely, if I could humbly add to your legacy, I would add service, because I think it's incredible how many places you serve and how your name is known for service and for volunteerism outside of being an amazing construction employer. How many employees do you have? Is that fair to ask?
Yeah, we have, it ranges anywhere from 65 to peak probably 75.
That's a lot of people, Mr. Rodriguez. Oh my goodness, how wonderful.
It is. It's, I like to say they're extensions of my family, right? So it's the hard work and what you do each and every day. I tell them all, they don't work for me, I work for them. And I think that it's important that that's the mission, right? So you want to be able to provide jobs and opportunities, and you've got to be able to go out there and find those opportunities so people can put food on their table and money in their pockets, and providing opportunities for individuals that may have never had an opportunity to be in this field. So that's where we're looking at changing the game, not just in the field, but in the office. So when you look at our field and our office, it's a reflection of our community. I would say this industry has not been a reflection However, they are trying, but I think that it's I try to lead by example and try to practice what I preach, I guess.
Right. So let's tap in about that. So I brag on you because a long time ago, which feels like forever ago, but I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, the Westside Business Taxpayers Association and some of the people at Lafayette High School had an idea about funding a business competition. And I had zero experience planning business competitions, right? But I know that you know me and you followed my professional service. So I came to you and I was like, hey, Mr. Rodriguez, we have this idea and we'd really like you to support it. Now, the year prior, my mentor and the head of the WSBTA at that time, he supported it. And I was just really, really, really grateful that you came on board. So Think Tank started off as Shark Tank. Why did you decide to like take a bet on investing into the program, and like what has being a core sponsor for that program been like? We've had 40 kids cycle through it and present on stage to compete for money about business ideas that you help pay for them to compete for.
Well, I mean, I think it's always important to give back, and you know, one of the things that you know I've learned is I've been able to take advantage of opportunities. And, you know, I went through programs like Buffalo Prep to get a scholarship to go to St. Joe's, and I got a scholarship to go to Clarkson University. But without those programs and without the people, you know, founders like Robert Wilmers and Muriel Howard for Buffalo Prep that, you know, they saw vision 34 years ago and they were supporting. And so you realize the people in the past that provided that opportunity. So you never know how you're going to touch, even though I've never met Robert Wilmers or Muriel Howard, but like those are individuals that, you know, I look at that provided the service and had the vision that a program like this can help somebody like me. And so it's important to always look back and say, what can you do moving forward? And it's not what it can do for you today, but it's what it can do for those kids in the future. So anytime you're able to help and support, especially, you know, in the neighborhood, in the West Side where I grew up and where my family still lives, that it's important that's, you know, that hits the core. And there's still a lot of work and needs, but it's important that, you know, you're aware that you can get, if you can, whatever you can give back. And if it's not money, it's time, right? So it's important that no matter what, I always say, you know, you can give one of those two. So if you don't have the money, you can give time. And I think it's important because the students see that. And
you came. I remember the time you walked into the Lafayette Auditorium. I was like, is he really here? And you literally listened to each one of the students' presentations so intensely. And I remember you asking me so many questions following up. And I think one of the things is when you're creating infrastructures, right, to support other people's dreams, it's so energizing when you have other people who believe in it. And I remember the person that won the first year, he ended up at UB. We've had some winners come here and join Buffalo State. We have an incubator at the SBA, which I know you're familiar with. So just wanting to point out how humble you are, because there's been several meetings where I'm like, excuse me, this is what he does, because I know you won't bring it up. And that's kind of part of your leadership. And I love that about you too.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah. And I think it's, you know, it's just something that you're meant to do. Right. And I think that's, you know, I always try to say it's paving the pathway, you know, for the good of the community.
Yeah. And I think for me, one of the things I just want to reiterate is the school in which the business competition is funded is Lafayette International 207. So in order to attend Lafayette International, you have to be in the United States for 6 months or less. That was when they had first started, and be either a new arrival or a new American. And for me, one of the things that I think is so fundamentally important about the program is this idea that because our students have seen capitalism at work in refugee camps and in nations where capitalism is expressed in various different ways because of like their social conditions and the way that they're changing, that they bring that perspective to the West Side, and it makes West Side business stronger. And I like just love the idea that we've had some girls that come from countries where they're, you know, not able to speak publicly to 8 months later, you know, presenting on stage and winning money. So we actually pay the kids too, Willie. There's money involved. Like it's cash money at Lafayette High School. And I think our grand prize was $300, and Mr. Rodriguez won't take credit for it, but for the first 2 years, I think every single person that participated received a tablet or a computer. So digital access was something we were talking about with our students, when it was really, really important. And, I just thank you for your continued support on that. Think Tank is happening again this year. You already know. Big ups to Elmer Santos and Say Yes Buffalo, and everybody else who makes the dream possible. But there's actually a shirt, right? And the shirt says, I survived. It said Shark Tank in the beginning, but it now says Think Tank. And I always say, like, in the West Side, sometimes you earn your shirts, and that shirt is earned. And it has the Rodriquez Construction logo on it. And I think that is just a testament to, like, the fact that you believe in kids. And I think people need to know that,
Hey, Talia, can I ask him some questions?
Yeah, of course.
This really sounds like a true American story.
Mr. Rodriguez, this is Willie. He's my my producer. My co-producer is right behind him too. I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Norm.
Introduce
yourself, Norm.
Say hi.
Hello there, Mr. Rodriguez.
Hello.
How you doing? And this is Willie H., Mr. Rodriguez. Okay, so now there's many people that I know want to get in construction and be successful like you. First question I want to ask: are you the Rodriguez Construction that's doing right? I think the museum, right across the street from Buff State. Is that the same one?
So we have dumpsters there. So I think a lot of people think that we're larger than we are. So
the
dumpsters have been
you do
a
look
pretty
large.
good marketing tool there. But our dumpsters division has grown. So we have 2 dumpster roll-offs.
That is
70
so smart.
We do about $2.5 million in dumpster services. So that's another service line that we started about 2.5-3 years ago.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Some of the projects
genius.
we're doing now are like the convention center. You could see that. That's one of our large projects that we're working on.
Yeah, because I see your name everywhere, Rodriguez. And that dumpster, that's brilliant because when you see work going up, you think of Rodriguez Construction. So that's genius. That's the first thing. The second question I want to ask you, where are your roots? Where you come from? Who are? I know you live on the West Side, which is awesome. You still live there, which is awesome. Where you come from? Who are you?
So I was born and raised in Buffalo.
Wow.
My dad was born in Peru, and my mom was born in Puerto Rico. So
okay, Peruvian and Puerto Rico. Okay, great.
Yes.
Now
my dad moved to the United States when he was 5. So, but he was
awesome.
So, yes.
Yeah, it sounds like a true American story. Now, Mr. Rodriguez, third question. I'm only going to keep it to third. Third question I want to ask you: how can people become successful in construction? Because I know there's a ton of people who try to get in construction, and it seems hard. Is it they? I know they need to have the what's the ink? I can't think of it. But anyway, what's the key things to become successful in construction?
So I would say in construction, the first thing is it is not a get rich quick.
Okay. It is work.
Very tough. It's cutthroat. I would tell you, wow. I tell most people, I took 10 years working under a large construction manager to really understand this business. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So, I think I've earned my stripes working with the largest contractors in Western New York. So I managed $350 million worth of projects for that firm previously, prior to me starting my own company. Okay. So I was able to really learn the business. And I think it's like anything else. It's understanding and learning it. Okay. What happens is everyone talks about there's so many opportunities, and then you dive into it, but you really don't know the business. And I think that's one of the biggest things is understanding the paperwork. And especially when you talk about minority women-owned business participation, most of the time it's through some type of government agency. And anytime there's government agencies, there's a lot of paperwork and red tape that comes with it. And that's where I think we see a lot of the minority businesses have a struggle with providing that, because they may know how to do the work, but then they don't have the business or background or back office to support that. So that's what, I'm trying to help mentor, speak with other, minority-owned businesses and say, this is what you've got to do. And I've told every minority business that if you need help, my business is open. I'm here. I've been meeting with other businesses. If you're the real deal and want to do it, come to my office at 7 a.m. I will give you.
No, Louie will outwork you.
Yeah.
He will outwork you. But Mr. Rodriguez, would you not encourage them also to reach out to like the Beverly Gray and the SBA? Like, how have those kind of environments where like people are working specifically to build infrastructure, vocabulary, and like comfortability within like the communities, how have you supported them? Because I know you talk a lot about why they're important.
Yeah, and I know, like, I know that Buff State has a program. They have a 6-week program for contractor readiness. So, look, a lot of these programs are good, but the thing is they highlight a lot of items, and you've got to really know where your niche is, where you're going, and I would say starting at those, because you're going to get the fundamentals, right? Because if you're coming in and just saying I want to start a business, that's going to be very difficult. That's where these SBA, the small business development centers, they can help. Beverly Gray, so. And I would say go to all of them, because that's what I did in the beginning. I went in to the SBA. I went and learned how to write business plans. I went through all the trainings, even though I worked for a large construction manager and had the background. But there's things that you don't learn until you run a business, and then you go through those trials and tribulations of what it takes to be a business owner. And I think in the beginning, I would tell everybody, get ready to work 120 hours a week.
I know you work so hard. It's so exhausting. And I'm in meetings with you sometimes. And, I'm always inspired by how much you talk about diligence. So I wanted to kind of credit you for two things. One of which, your father, who has, an outstanding reputation of service, one of which that is earned right in our community, someone who my dad always looked to as a community oriented person. And then how your family has supported Black and Brown media. So with your family supporting La Última Hora and that paper circulating specifically in the South Towns and in places where there are news gaps for Latinos. I mean, how important is shows like, well, obviously it's important to you because you're here. Thank you so much. But like, how important is media to you and making sure that we're supporting Black and Brown industries in all spaces, even outside of construction? Because I feel like you do that really well in education, but also maybe in media as well.
No, I agree. I think that that's very important. And I think that, I don't know the numbers, but I would say it may be anywhere from 55 to 75,000 Hispanics in Western New York. And when you look at the power of numbers, that is very powerful in what you do. And you see it gets involved to getting awareness out there, getting people out to vote. No matter what your political affiliation, it's making sure that you realize that your vote counts. And that can really make change, and that people might not think that they're one vote, but when you look at the numbers in these races and different things, it is important. And I think that it's important that, with media, you can provide awareness to what's going on. And I think that, one of the things I'm trying to do is really make sure that within the community, we're collaborating. I see too many times that there's so many silos, and it's, what's good for what this organization versus the others. But when you can collaborate, you can consolidate services, but make it more better for the community. And so that's really where I'm trying to help leverage where, I may not, I have no gain on any of that, but I think the gain is really for the community and looking at what's best suited and how you can go about it. So that's where, some of the service roles, and as I've developed more knowledge working on the larger nonprofit boards, you see how strong of an organization they are, what they're looking for grants, and then how we can make these, minority-led nonprofits stronger and sustainable and building their capacity. So there's what's going back to the media and the awareness. It's really giving that information, because it's hard for people, and I think you've got a lot of different age gaps to be able to find certain places of where are they getting their knowledge or information from, and not just the social medias and things like that.
I remember when your father agreed to publish my column, how excited I was, because I respected his paper, and just because papers and newspapers like that were so important to my grandma, and I started writing in honor of her. So I'm going to ask you I always ask him for favors, but this is a favor. Open Buffalo, we are looking and we are working with the community to develop some stuff. So just wanting to put a plug to them and Boys and Girls Club and other organizations that I know you care so much about and who actually have an impact on the environment and how important your work is, both from an infrastructure perspective and otherwise. So we've had a lot of people join us on Instagram. I know that you'll be able to see our link on 91.3. So I want to thank you for coming and for sharing your time with us, and also for your leadership, and then also for offering to have people come to your office and meet you at 7 a.m. Like, I know you mean that. I love when people come to our spaces and are just really open to accept questions. So in closing, is there anything that you wanted to give advice to, like, a college student that's listening right now that wants to one day be a Latino CEO in charge of 70 people? So you can close the show for me, Mr. Rodriguez.
I guess I'd say follow your passion. And in construction, look, I love the industry. I love what I do. When you follow what you do and it's passionate, you never work in a day in your life. If you're looking to be a CEO or own a company, put the work in. Still have your 9 to 5, but that's your 5 to 9. So put the grind in. Make sure that you're stable, but it's going to be ups and downs. And I think if you do good work, everything will prevail. And just make sure that you're on the up and up with everything. There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts in life, but hard work will always prevail. And so that's I think my advice for anybody. And don't just try to be an Instagram or LinkedIn CEO. Do the work, and then everything else will come with it.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. I really appreciate your candor and for your time
How do
today.
you say this one? Latinas.
All right. Thank you.
Latinas make history every day.
Join us every Sunday from 6 till 10 a.m.
So